So we're back, and we are going to be kind of wrapping up the discussion about mask fem. And I think, you know, it's really, it really is such an important discussion to have, especially, you know, I guess we're all queer, and, you know, we do feel almost like a pressure, you know, to be, you know, definitively one thing, you know. And I don't know why that is, you know. I think that people, you know, kind of forget that there isn't only one coming out, you know, and the story that we write is for us and by us, and we can be whatever, you know, we want to be. And, you know, maybe sitting on here, you know, you may identify as one thing today, but, you know, tomorrow that could, you know, shift, you know, in a certain way. And gender expression in itself is so fluid, and, you know, you don't always have to, because it really is, it is a performance in a way, you know, but like, it's what gives you your zhuzh, you know, what makes you feel comfortable, you know. Put on the clothes that give you, you know, that boost, that, you know, that confidence, that, you know. So I don't know, like, I mean, I don't know how I present, to be honest. Like, I don't even know. Like, I feel like I dress as a boy, but like the way I behave is other. You know what I mean? It's so, and I don't know, like it really is like that, you know, that you just kind of find your balance in whatever that is, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I found my balance in extremes. I look like this normally, but then on the weekends I do drag, which is arguably like the most extreme. And in doing that, I found the happy point where I was comfortable and became comfortable with my femininity a little bit, because I used to really not be comfortable with it at all. And I really used to hate anything that I did that was feminine. And then I started doing drag and kind of saved myself from toxic masculinity in a way.
Speaking of toxic masculinity, oh, sorry, yes, Githan?
No, it's all right, go for it.
I was gonna say that, you know, toxic masculinity in the community extends to the dating culture, and it really, and the dating culture in other, you know, the heterosexual dating culture is, you cute, oh, you cute, and then, you know, you court, and it's cute, and it's, you know, it's lovely, it's this wonderful love story, you get married, have kids, and it's a happily ever after. That's not true for the gays.
People are sick.
Not true.
I don't want to talk about them.
This is
not true for the gays.
This is how the gay experience goes. Are we friends, or are we flirting, or are we friends flirting? That's the gay experience.
Or are we friends who met because we fucked each other and then it didn't work, so now we're friends and we all have a nice kiki and everyone knows that, you know, we fucked.
I fall in love with every single one of my gay best friends before we become friends. It is exhausting. Do you know how tired I am? I am so tired. My best friend was my first boyfriend, who I dated when I was 19. And we were together for 2.5 years, and now we're still best friends. But like this navigation of like just being a mutually gay friend to someone when you're yourself a gay man, it is so, and I'm 25. I mean, Fabi, when you said you were 22, I was like, oh God, okay, once again, I have to be the Marsha. But like, I'm 25, turning 26 this year, and it has not gotten easier. It has not gotten easier in any way, shape, or form to try and understand and navigate when someone is being affectionate to you, loving to you, or flirting with you when you are a gay man and they themselves are the same.
I mean, I will say this is perhaps controversial, but I think it's also
for like helping me with my personal issues during this webcast. I really appreciate it.
I mean, firstly, I'm 30, turning 31, so
God,
I'm sorry if anybody's a mom. It is I. Also, I think with regards to friendships and dating culture, I think what has been the problem again is that we are trying to, as a gay community, as gay people, to kind of fit the mold that already exists between, with heterosexual people, because it's like the girl, the guy, they get together and, whatever. What about having multiple guys? What about having multiple girls or having multiple partners, period, and,
Yes.
and just having friends who you cuddle with and friends who you fuck and, and just leaving it at that. Or becoming best friends with the person that you're fucking but aren't going to date, and you're going to date somebody else. And, if everybody is, I don't know, I'm a free love. I should have been born in the 1960s, 70s, like I'm all for everybody love who you love as how you love them. So I think it's also how we define our own relationships. And I think for me, being queer has been very liberating, even in that regard, where I'm like, I don't actually have to fit into the pre-existing mold. I can create a new mold today, and tomorrow it can be another mold, a different shape. But also being that person who loves and who is intimate and who fucks that way, I have had to found challenges. Community within this broader community has been a challenge. And when you are ready to date, your partner or partners, then all of a sudden your partner's like, what if like we don't become open? What if we have a monogamous relationship? And you're like,
yeah,
it's awkward because I can't just switch it on.
Bonnie and Catherine spoke about this Bonnie and Dope St. Jude spoke about this in their video that they did, which I watched before ours. And I don't remember which one of them it was that said it, but one of them was like, you're already queer, like, why would you settle into something boring, and why would you like try to replicate like heteronormative standards of relationships? And I really love that, and it really like put a little seed in my brain, because I have always viewed myself as a monogamist. But in my last relationship, my ex cheated on me. But what that sparked in my mind's eye sort of was, if we'd agreed to be open, I wouldn't have had a problem with it, and that situation that we were in wouldn't have been construed as cheating. And kind of starting to think now about maybe my own perceptions of like monogamy and what is monogamous and what's open, what's ethically non-monogamous, what's polyamorous, and things like that. And maybe like not reinventing the wheel, but just saying there are several types of wheels, and like being queer, being
drive a car.
Exactly. Well, first of all, we have to be able to drive, but we're gay, so we can't.
I don't know.
But being like me, myself, I view myself as a Toyota Corolla, the Toyota Corolla of drag. I get to choose whatever wheels I put on my Corolla. So, maybe one of those wheels is non-monogamous. And I really enjoyed this conversation that like you just started about it, because monogamy in queer relationships leads sometimes to like the worst situations for the people in the relationship and the people outside of it. And maybe the answer is not like being non-monogamous.
I have to
I don't think it's necessarily the answer though. Sorry, Githan. But I think it's just like monogamy and gay relationships can totally work.
Oh, 100%.
Like,
yes.
Absolutely work. But I think it's before you even decide that you want to be in a relationship, I think the knowledge of how you relate, how your partner relates, what you want out of the relationship with the two of you, and maybe four of you. But the honesty.
Sometimes
but I think it's about the honesty, the communication right there at the beginning, and that negotiation of, okay, cool, these then are my boundaries, even with this very free form love, but there are boundaries so that I know you are not going to hurt me, or that I can be to a degree, assured that you are not going to hurt me and you're going to have my best interest at heart.
Yeah, but that's why I call it ethical non-monogamy.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, I know this couple in an open relationship in Cape Town, and their relationship is characterized by tomfoolery and goopery and gaggery and chaos and mess, and it's horrible because there are no boundaries. It's a completely unboundaried relationship. And I think that if you are going to enter into a polyamorous relationship or an open relationship, there have to be certain boundaries, you know, to prevent hurt, which is why I agree with you. I don't think it's an answer to the problems of monogamy, because you still have certain characteristics of monogamy within an open relationship.
So
yeah,
what I wanted to ask was, like, I am someone who is, like, I've already outed myself in that respect without even trying. Like, I'm a die-hard romantic. Like, I love the idea of monogamy. I really do.
Same.
But I completely can appreciate, and have been in the past year or year and a half, ideas of polygamy. And I think that it actually can be a really, really healthy thing. What I wanted to ask is, what do you think then about polygamy and the ideas of polygamy in gay communities where we're already seen as being fucking, like, you know, sexual deviants, every.
That's fine with me. Let me keep it real with you. I don't mind being seen as a sexual deviant, okay? Like, being seen in that way has allowed me to be or become a very kink positive person, for one thing, to understand myself sexually, to enjoy sex and stop apologizing for it, and say, maybe I want to post my ass on Twitter or do something and be like, this is actually fine. The issue is not us. I think the issue...
It's not us, that's the thing. I know it's not us.
Yeah.
And I think so many people can be liberated the way that you've been. My
Mhm.
issue is that, like, how much pain and trauma is there to come from this idea of accepting and embracing polygamy for gay individuals in a society where the straights already have it out for us, you know, as being, like...
I guess that's my thinking. Because I'm like, they already have it out for us. Just do whatever the fuck you want.
It's so true.
You know?
It's so true. I just think that there's, like, this internal kind of conflict going on where it's like, I don't want to play into this idea that I am, you know, a circuit party daddy, where in the other respect, I also really, really, really do not want to adhere to the idea that, you know, you only need to love one person at a time and be invested in one person at a time. Because I've kind of isolated for myself and identified that I don't love that way. I love lots of people at multiple different times and in different capacities. And some of those are romantically inclined and some of them are platonic. The reality,
there are different kinds of love.
There's different kinds of love. That's the other thing, you know? I just think it becomes so, like, confusing trying to navigate that space when there is such a heady kind of oppression on this idea of being gay and being sexually liberated. I mean, that was the first thing. That was the first issue I had when I was diagnosed with HIV. The first thing I ever thought was, well, I'm never going to have sex again. And that was literally not anything that was brought on by anything other than my perceptions of what the gay community was like in my life and in my understanding. At, when was I? It was a year ago. I was 24. At 24 years old, like, I had no other kind of way of moving forward beyond thinking, well, I'm not going to be comfortable having sex ever again with anyone because I'm terrified. And I think that kind of stigma and that kind of fear kind of filters into, again, this rhetoric of multiple lovers, of free love, of polygamy. And I think polygamy has such a bad rep. I mean, that's not what I'm trying to advocate for here. I just think that there's like so much that needs to be rewritten about the way that we view it and the way that we see it. Because I think I'm more pro polygamy now than I've ever been in my life. And like I said, that's a big thing for me because I've been a diehard romantic and broken my heart a million times over for those very reasons of trying to like emulate a monogamous, for the most part, hetero relationship.
I think the issue that I also experience is, as queer people, we live a lot of our life in protest of so many things, and we're constantly fighting battles just by living openly in a lot of ways. So then when you fall into something like a monogamous relationship, a part of you may be resistant to it because you're thinking, what institution is this fulfilling? Am I somehow succumbing to heteronormativity? Am I, fitting within this binary? Does this fit in with my maybe political orientation? I don't know if that's a way that anyone feels about it.
I think we definitely do put a lot of pressure on ourselves, to be almost like perfect examples, or kind of like perfect cutout of what like gay culture and like gay, like queer culture represents, and
we want to do it right.
We want to do it right, but like the real truth is there's no right way to be gay or queer or anything.
Oh my God, there's the answer, guys. We got there.
Viwe, you were about to say something?
Yeah, so I was going to say, I think what Fabi said, like right in the beginning, where you said, actually, it's about rewriting what, is in our head. So it's that unlearning the socialization that we've had. If we stop viewing, relationships, and particularly sexual relationships and romantic relationships, as one type of thing, and being like, okay, there are multiple types. So just being open to multiple experiences or versions thereof, then we can begin sort of exploring our own kind of barriers to understanding or being open and experiencing other types of relationships. I think because in South Africa, we've had one very kind of one particular narrative of non-monogamous relationships, which was the polygamy of Jacob Zuma, and that has been, sprinkled with corruption and sprinkled with a lot of like negative stuff. Whereas if we were to say, okay, that's one type of polygamy, that's how that person is doing polygamy, but it also isn't just about one person who is the center of 10 other people's universe. You can be the center yourself within a polycule of 30, 40 people, because that's how you want to be, and so just creating different versions of relationships and romantic relationships. I think that is the beginning. I think that's where we kind of go to the foundation of, okay, how do people relate? What is this type of relationship? What other versions exist? Because even with identity of a gender and sexual nature, it's like, okay, I am a man, but I'm not. Even if I was a heterosexual man, I wouldn't be a heterosexual man the same way that my father is, or my brother, or whoever, or an uncle, or the next man standing next to me. I would be a heterosexual man who does probably do most of the things that other people do, that other heterosexual men do, but I don't do it in the same way. So I think also relationshiping, we kind of perhaps need to break it down for ourselves to be like, okay, and I think accept the fact that, and correct ourselves from thinking that monogamous relationships, non-monogamous relationships are placed in this particular box, and that's what they will always be. Because I know people who are in monogamous relationships who go outside of the relationship for sexual gratification, and they both know about each other, and that's accepted within that relationship. So even within monogamy, there is, a different type of monogamy. There's and then there are those monogamous relationships where people cheat on each other and they don't know that the other person is cheating. So again, I'm sorry, and again with non-monogamous relationships, there are those, they would be open sexually but not romantically. There would be one partner who is open, the other is not. One partner wants to know what the other one is doing, the other one doesn't. And so there's very, very varying degrees and constellations of how people can relate. So I think the beginning, Fabi had it right. It's just understanding that there's multiple layers, there's multiple versions.
I love that you brought up Jacob Zuma as an example, because it brings into question how colonial monogamy is. And it brings into our perspective how a lot of how we still live our life and how we judge other people for living their life is rooted in colonial ways of thinking. And part of rewriting, how we think and how we do things, I think in South Africa, in our context, is inherently linked to decolonizing discourse and decolonizing the way that we think, because so much of the view of Zuma's polygamous marriage was rooted in racism and was rooted in people validating racism, saying, like, oh, he's this word and that word, and can you believe that he's married to this many people? Oh, let's relate that so we can persecute him on the basis of racism as well. And then we can judge his relationship and say, however controversial this may be, white South Africa is saying that's a black thing, for example.
Yeah,
and viewing it from, othering it, exactly. And viewing it from this perspective of privilege, of white supremacy, maybe, and using it as that.
Kind of directing the conversation back to like gay dating culture, it'll be really interesting to, speak about the leading up to the dating, the apps and the way that, men proposition men. What are your thoughts
No
about
fat,
the
no
apps?
femmes.
Oh my gosh, yes,
What did you say?
I am both.
No name.
I said no fats, no femmes, and I am both.
Oh my god. No hairy girls, no brown girls.
Oh, sis.
No.
Have you seen the girls on Twitter? I don't know who all is on Twitter, but there was this
ice or rice.
there was this issue the other day with this Caucasian man. He must have been like 6'5", blue eyes, blonde hair, so attractive and like ripped. And he posted this photo and he was like, if I had a dad bod, then y'all would have hyped me up. But because I have muscles, nobody likes me. And I was like, excuse you, everybody likes you. Everybody likes you. Talk to anyone like us who, fits outside of being muscular, white, etc., 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 and they will have a completely different experience to you on dating apps.
I have such a problem. Like, the first thing I thought when you said that, I'm such an empath, I was like, shame, but body dysmorphia manifests itself in many different ways.
No.
But, like, that's not what's happening here. I know that's not what's happening here. But, like,
I gaze, girl.
You're completely right, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know about that Twitter scandal. But I think, it's so weird because a lot of my relationships, one of which lasted 7 years, started online. And so online dating itself and dating through the apps is not actually, for me, hasn't been a problem, for finding a partner, but it is having to navigate through all the potholes and everything to get to the end. But I think it also, we get online and we present ourselves as something that we perhaps are not. And we want then our ideal self to be with someone who matches up to that person or to that ideal self. And so when the people put, you know, their torsos with the six packs and whatnot, that's what they're looking for. They're looking for someone who's going to worship that, and who is going, because that's what they worship, and that's what they think is, you know, the ideal. But I think block button is, you know, it's a lifesaver. Just block, report, because honestly, it's just not worth your time. It really isn't. To kind of, you already are tired, like Githan said. At the end of the day, you get home, you were tired, and you're like, let me waste some time, let me go in the app and check what's going on. But I think it's also our own intentions for being online is, you know, if you are looking for a relationship, but not being explicit about it, and being like, I'll entertain this person who's just looking for a hookup, or I'll entertain this person who has 20 million requirements before they even like start a conversation with you. When you have either, you know, when you've kind of defocused, you've left your own your intentions for being on the app. So one, I think, calling Grindr a dating app,
that's
something needs to be done about that.
Fake news.
It really isn't. Like, it's a hookup app. Okay, now let's start there. So if you're looking for a date, I think then let's not go there. Go maybe to Tinder, because that seems to be more, in my experience, that seems to be where people are more open to the idea of actually going to like a restaurant and having a meal and sit down and chat, and maybe having the 90-day rule or something. But that's not going to happen on Grindr.
Not my gay ass, baby.
I find you brought up something.
I've spoken a lot.
No, you brought up something that was really interesting to me, though. Like, as a gay man, I don't have Grindr anymore. I mean, I have such a wild relationship with that app. I mean, you know, it's a continuous case of downloading and deleting and downloading and deleting. I love that there's now this new feature where she's like, if you delete this another time, I might not be back the next time. Like, it says something like you can't create an account after you've deleted it like several times. I was like, Sha, you need me, bitch. But like, I go onto Grindr, like when I have it, I go on and I log into it, and I actually innately do not know what I'm there for, which I think is really interesting. I honest to God, like exactly like what you were saying, Viwe, like I don't know if I am there for a relationship, whether I am there to date people, whether I am there for validation. And as a result of that, I entertain everything. Probably. And that in itself is a really destructive, it's a really, really destructive process and habit. And I think Grindr as a kind of an anchor or as a springboard conversation, it is a manifestation of literally everything wrong with gay culture. Because there's a lot of good that it does in the fact that it makes communities accessible to people that would otherwise not have access to those communities. People who are closeted, people who are uncomfortable with their sexuality, people who are coming to terms with their sexuality, sure. But in so many other ways, I just see how it perpetuates and manifests so much hatred and so much othering towards one another. And again, like I mean I've had Tinder once, and I can tell you for a fact I've never downloaded it again, because this physical act of like swiping makes me really, really anxious and really uncomfortable. And I'll tell you, it literally likens for me, it feels like I'm in an abattoir and I'm swiping bodies. Like the people just become like bodies to me. Like it's so dehumanizing. And that gesture of just like swiping away faces and swiping, like it's very, very loaded. And I was very quick to acknowledge for myself when I was on that app how uncomfortable it made me and how dehumanizing the process made me. And so I never downloaded it again.
Yeah.
However, Grindr, which is something that I think a lot of people will agree is far more dehumanizing than Tinder, is something that I'm continuously in a relationship with.
Yeah.
But I think there's
feel...
also something to be said, Fabi, sorry. There's something to be said about online, like with the apps, because they are designed, and with mobile devices, firstly, with or smartphones, and with the apps, they are designed to be addictive, to keep drawing you back. Because you could turn off your notifications for Grindr, you can turn off your notifications for Tinder, turn off mobile data, but trust me, you will get notifications from the app saying, look at how many new people are in your area.
Mm.
You know, and so then they kind of draw you back. And I don't know if anybody else has, like I am, yes, mobile phone generation. My pocket, like I always put my phone in my right-hand front pocket, and if it's not there, sometimes I feel it vibrate, and it's not even in my pocket. So phone addiction is like a big thing. So like I think, yeah, I think going into those spaces, I'm not saying that everybody and anybody needs to be of, you know, good mental health or whatever, but I think keeping your mental health in check when going into those spaces is really, really important. Because I mean, I made because I will completely like own up to the fact that at one point I wasn't doing well, and so at different parts of my life I have used sexual connection as a form of soothing, of self-soothing. And so if we kind of just check ourselves. So I made a promise to myself that I would never go onto Grindr if I do have it whenever I'm feeling very happy or very sad. I just had to be like a regular kind of mood, because those heightened or desperately low emotions,
someone
you know,
it's a very good way of thinking. It's an incredibly, incredibly astute train of thought. And at first it sounds kind of jarring, like I would never go on if I'm really happy or really sad. But to me, it's like concrete. It makes so much sense.
Yeah, because even if you just think about how the brain works and how, like, what hormones are released into the bloodstream when you are very happy and excited, and you know, and so it's easier for you to form a connection to a person who you just, you know, met for a BJ, or even if you are very sad, you then immediately kind of fall in love. So kind of looking at, you know, because we were talking about the build-up to romantic relationships, but even that, you almost getting like this pseudo connection to someone who you probably don't even know or don't even wish to know beyond the size of their genitalia.
I think it's really interesting, you know, that like these apps, you know, have become, because of course, like when the people created the apps themselves, like they saw it as like, oh, you know, like Githan was saying, you get to identify people in different places and see people all over the show, you know, especially if you're closeted, or, you know, and also that you get to, like, you know, I guess in a way kind of like test and kind of feel and get to experience, you know, being loved and being validated and that kind of thing. But these apps have just become, other than that, you know, people come there with preferences. And I don't know, I'm really interested to hear your thoughts about, like, you know, that word preference, you know, is that word just like a way of hiding prejudices in a way?
Yes, it is. I think it is. Like, I mean, it's so stupid, but like, even when I dyed because my hair's like brown, and when I dyed it pink the first time when I dyed it, I literally had guys messaging me and being like, I would fuck you if your hair wasn't pink. And I was like, okay, that's fun for you, but I'd still fuck
What are you
me.
going to be having sex with? My hair or like...
Yeah. When Alaska said, this is my hair, girl, this is not what she meant. Like, take a seat, leave me alone, you know? But obviously, again, I am a white cis-passing man, so I think my experience of dating apps is probably a lot different to the three of you. And I wanted to ask Githan specifically what your experience.
Oh my God,
You mentioned specifically that you are HIV positive. And if you'd be willing to talk about it, like how that's impacted your experience on Grindr, because I know that there's a lot of stuff on dating apps surrounding people who have HIV.
So with regard to Grindr and my HIV status, I always put on that I always put publicly on my profile that I'm positive and undetectable. And it's interesting because I've had conversations with other people who are positive and undetectable on Grindr, and they'll always start a conversation by saying like, how much do you engage with people here? Because no one talks to me. And I speak to loads of people, regardless. It's a flurry of different things, because I'm going to tell you a story at the end of this, which is like terrible. But the first thing I want to say is like, you'll be surprised by how there's not just like a staunch, just like not wanting to engage with people who are HIV positive. There's also kind of like a really terrifying component of fetishization that exists in the gay world. And firstly, also just to clarify for all the children at home and anyone who ever watches this, as a gay man with HIV or as a gay person with HIV who is on antiretrovirals and has a status of undetectable and untransmittable, you can have sex with people and not transmit HIV. You can have as much sex as possible or as much as you want. You or your partner, if you're a gay man, are going to wear condoms, not because of HIV, but because of STDs and STIs, honey. Like, and then, also PrEP. See, I told you I didn't want to get into a rant about it, so I'm not going to. But there's this phenomenon called bug chasing and bug chasers in gay communities, which a lot of people don't know about, which I became aware of after I was diagnosed, where men actively seek out HIV positive men to have sex with them in the hopes of contracting HIV. It is it's such a multifaceted, and like the levels of masochism at play here, it's very multi-layered and it's a completely confounded thing. But I think that was something that I wanted to bring up just in conversation, because it's not something that one would think of when thinking of the experience of an HIV positive person on dating apps. Something else that I've experienced is someone that I met up with on Grindr and from Grindr, and we hooked up, and then we saw each other again like a second time and a third time, and I was quite fond of him. He had a boyfriend, but we were, again, polyamory. He had a boyfriend that lived in another country, but they were open while they were apart from each other. So we like hung out quite a lot, and we went out to clubs together and stuff. We didn't actually hook up again though. And then we decided to go to the UCT dam actually for a swim one day. And the dam was closed, so we came back to my place and we started getting into a conversation. And I said something about being HIV positive, and he said, "What? You're HIV positive?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know this." And he was like, "I didn't know you were HIV positive. If I had known you were HIV positive, I would have never hooked up with you." And it was one of the weirdest experiences for me, because that was the first time that anyone had ever told me that I was undesirable because of my status. I mean, I'm a strong... Listen, I have depression and I have a lot of anxiety and a lot of issues in my life, but I'm a very strong-willed person. And when I came out as HIV positive last year, was it last year? Yeah, it was last year. I was very well supported and met with a lot of love. And I just kind of didn't really have a capacity to see anger and hatred from anyone at that time. And this guy, he was the first individual, the first person to ever say to me, oh, that's like, I'm definitely, firstly, we're never going to hook up again. And secondly, I would have never hooked up with you. And then he gave me secondhand anxiety that I had potentially given him HIV, like, because he was then terrified to go get a test and he wanted me to go get a test with him. And it turned into this whole thing. Needless to say, the exchange was just so, like, it was so jarring and shaking. I haven't been on Grindr or any dating apps at all in a while, not because of that incident, but that incident made me think, as an HIV positive person, do I need to now make it very brazenly clear in my posts and in my profiles that I am HIV positive, and you need to know that, because otherwise people just aren't going to see it. It gave me this kind of level of like having to second guess everything, which I'm still kind of trying to unpack right now. But for the most part, I think I've engaged with a lot of, and I've hooked up with a lot of HIV positive men. And that feels like one of the more comfortable spaces on gay dating apps for me at the moment, because there is just no prejudice and there is a mutual understanding of one another, and it feels safe and it feels loving, regardless of whether that is fabricated or not. It does feel kind of like love, you know, that you can understand that that person has HIV and that you have HIV and that you're not scared of each other and that you can accept each other. And for me, that acceptance means love. I don't mean love in the traditional sense. I think that's all that I have to say about it. I said a lot.
Oh, thank you for saying all of that.
I'm just looking at your face and you're oh, I'm dead.
I'm a Capricorn. I don't show my feelings, bitch.
One of my best friends is a Capricorn. I know you people.
Yeah, we're horrible.
No, you're not. You're diligent and you love to wear jeans.
Yes, we do.
But thank you for sharing that really vulnerable thank you for sharing that really vulnerable story, you know, about your past, and you know how, you know, you exist and kind of move through, you know, the community and through gay spaces, you know. And you know, you touched on you know, feelings of anxiety, and I kind of want to hear from, you know, y'all, how do you deal and how do you handle, and you know, what are the tools that you have that kind of help you and have helped you throughout the years with, you know, handling your mental health and keeping that in check?
I think like chosen families are super important, and we spoke about them a lot earlier. And for me, like in high school, I was potentially the most depressed and anxious I've ever been. And I think it was because I didn't have that. And then like didn't have that family. And then when I went into varsity, I learned so much about being gay and so much about living life and like being happy with yourself, and like unlearning self-hatred takes, I don't think I'll ever unlearn it completely. But I think like my queer family, my chosen family, has really validated that for me and also helped me unlearn and make me really proud to be gay, like not having self-rooted hatred in my sexuality or disliking myself because I'm gay or because I'm femme or because I'm this or because I'm that. Like now being gay is one of the things that I think improves my mental health because I'm so proud of it. I don't know if anyone else feels the same way, but I love being gay. I love it. And I feel like it makes my life so much better.
That's like the best sentiment I've heard from a gay person in a long time, I must be honest. No, it
I
really
would
is.
say,
It's so concise and it's so uplifting. And I don't even care whether you believe it or not. The fact is, it's like it's such a wonderfully refreshing turn of phrase. Like it's brilliant.
I mean, listen, I do think some days I'm probably the most homophobic person I know. Because gays be doing the most. Like
Well,
that
that's
guy
something
on
we haven't
Twitter.
talked about. I mean, internalized homophobia.
Yeah, that's
It's
what I
like,
was implying. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
like we all
yeah.
hate ourselves.
Yeah.
Literally,
And like, that's what I was
literally.
talking about when I did drag, is like, drag allowed me to stop hating myself in the weirdest way. Like, it just allowed me to stop taking myself so seriously, to stop being so concerned with what other people thought of me. And like, it opened me up to the reality that like the queer world, if you allow it to be, despite all of its shit, it's filled with tomfoolery like nothing else. But it's also one of the most beautiful places to be in, I think. But that being said, gays are the worst.
I think that beauty isn't yet available to as many people as it should be. And I think it exists. I completely agree with
Agreed.
you. I think it exists and I think it's there, but I don't think that enough people have the privilege to tap into that and to drink from that spring, as it were. And
Exactly. I mean, if I was poor and I'd been kicked out of home for my sexuality, I probably wouldn't be saying, I love this. This is the best thing for me. But, you know, my response is definitely rooted in the fact that, like, I have amazing gay friends and queer friends and an amazing family that loves and accepts me. And that's why I'm able to see it from that perspective, I think.
you've just
I
made
mean,
me
for
think.
me, as someone who has, I've not been kicked out of home, but has had a lot of violent engagements and kind of emotionally violent engagements with my family, and living a big part of my adolescence with, you know, under the threat of being kicked out. I can also say that I fucking love being me, you know, and even when I think it has taken time, it has taken therapy to even love myself when I am experiencing poor mental health. Um,
Yeah,
and accept myself in you know in my gayness and the beauty of it, and be able to see the beauty and the amazingness of my gayness when I am down there. But I think you know, just generally with regards to mental health, for me, what has worked and what has kind of kept me going has been therapy, medication, like that,
yes,
and compliance to both. For me, has really been a very, very important thing for the last 3 years. But again, like you, Fabi, having your chosen family there is really important, because you can't go through the world alone. You know, you do need to have some support. You do need to be able to find people in spaces where you can literally let your hair down, ugly cry, wake up, pick yourself up, and be okay afterwards, or ugly cry for a whole weekend and eat ice cream and be fine. But in a safe way, and be in a safe space and be held. Because I mean, I've only been intensely doing therapy for the last 3 years. That's only 27 years of my life, and I think the other 27 years of my life have just been as difficult and mentally challenging as the last 3 years have been. So I've
Absolutely.
gotten through those through my, you know, through the support that I've had, like I said, from those teachers in school who had my back, from my friends, you know, particularly my queer friends, and those people that allowed me to be myself when other spaces I couldn't be.
You like raised so much that I want to respond, like running around in my head actually. I just like, I think that, let me start with one of them and then hopefully the others will like fall into place. I think I agree with you both so much on this idea of like how we need our chosen family to kind of uplift us and support us at the moment. During this lockdown, I've been like dead ass alone. And yes, I live at home and I live with my mother and my father and my sister, and I have my family with me, but they really aren't the people that are fueling this kind of, you know, gay monster inside of me. If that's what we're going to talk about, they're not. And those people are people that I actually don't physically have access to at the moment. And it hurts a lot. Like, I think we're all feeling really, really pained as gay people, not being able to see and be with those that we love and care about the most. And I think that it's never been more truly brought to the surface how we make and choose our families as gay people.
Yeah.
Fucking RuPaul quote. And no, do you know what we do, Ru? We frack. But like there was some other point that you just made so many good points that I'm actually like I can't actually think of what that others were, so I'm gonna stop talking now till they come back. What did you end off on saying though? Please just remind me.
So I spoke about therapy and that I think I just said the last 27 years of my life.
Thank you. I just remembered. I love that you brought up the thing about therapy and what about the other 23 years, because have I not spent like my entire life, not my entire life, but maybe the majority of my gay life thinking, yes, I as we started this conversation with like, when did you come out? I came out when I was 19 in theory. What about, and then like, I'm supposed to be proud, you know? The expectancy is that you come out and then you're gay and then everything's not better, but like significantly better. And you need to now be proud and you need to go to gay pride and you need to stand there in Santon and you need to be happy. And what of the 19 years that came before where I was not allowed to be proud? And I think that there is such a lack of importance shone and like highlighted on this period before where we're not able to truly be ourselves, and how that manifests so much trauma and so much pain that we then have to deal with very awkwardly, very uncomfortably in our statuses as being gay people moving forward. I've been in therapy since 2014 and on medication for my mental health since the same time, actually, since that time as well, so 2014. And I've been going to therapy and taking meds for that. And it's not easy. It's really, really, really difficult to try and stabilize in your mind that you're getting better, but you also need all this help and you don't need to be ashamed of it. But at the same time, you feel uncomfortable bringing it up with other people. And I think my sentiment that I just want to share is that like things like pull shaming, things like talking about mental health and mental well-being, it could not be more important for us to do that at this time in our communities and amongst one another as we are now. Like, in a like as a combination with my antidepressants and my antiretroviral meds that I take, and then I take anti-anxiety tablets and things every day. I take a lot of pills, okay? Like I take a lot of meds every day. And like, I mean, okay, look at my pill box. It's not small, and it's literally not small because I had to get a bigger one because when I was first diagnosed with HIV, I got like this whole new slew of pills. And I remember my boyfriend at the time went to Clicks and bought me that one that I literally just showed now, because I broke down and started crying that all my pills didn't fit in each individual thing. And it's taken me a really long time to be able to actually, you know, engage with a gesture like I just did now, where I picked up my pill box and showed it to you on the video camera. But the reality is like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I spent such a long time struggling with this weekly process of sitting on your bed and popping out all your pills and putting them into your little thing once a week, and then looking at this pile of tinfoil, like, what are those things called that the meds come in? The pill sheets. And it literally, one week's worth of meds for me was a mountain of these pill sheets. And it used to really, really upset me. And I just think it doesn't need to be that way. We can communicate with one another in ways where this kind of feeling is not, it does not need to be taboo.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And I think like that's also what resonated with me about what Viwe was saying about pills. And like because I always talk openly about everything. I'm really not a person who believes in like I'll censor myself because I don't want to offend people, but I will speak openly about issues that people will think are taboo. And one of those things is mental health. Like I speak very openly about the fact that when I was 19, I was in an abusive relationship, and it was like the most depressed I'd ever been in my whole life. And like I lost 20 kilograms because I was like depressed and I wasn't able to eat. Like I lost my appetite, and it was like the worst time of my life. But whenever I talk about it, like I just did, people always kind of like look away from me, and they always like look at each other, and they're always like, is this bitch for real? Like, is he really talking about this now? And I'm like, yes, because why not? It's all stuff that we're going through. We've all been depressed. We've all experienced anxiety. Like, why can I not talk about this? It's an experience that I've spoken about openly, and I've had people come to me afterwards and say, like, didn't want to say anything while other people were listening, but thank you for talking about that because it really helped me. And it's so important that we end the stigma around, especially going to therapy and talking about your feelings openly, but especially how you mentioned pills. Like, if you need medication to function, like I do, I take anxiety medication every day, otherwise I wouldn't be able to function. If you need pills to function every day, then you take them. It doesn't matter what anyone says. It doesn't make you less of a person because you take medication that gets you through the day. It just makes you a person. And I had to learn that when I started taking anxiety medication, because you tell people you take anxiety medication and they think that you're like, I don't know, they think that you're broken or something. And it's like, no, girl, you
10
take
points.
your you take your probiotics every day. Like, consider this my B6, 8, 9, and 12 or whatever the fuck. Like, this is just me.
They think you're broken.
Exactly.
Why
Like, this
would
is
you,
me
if a
every
child
day.
is in a cast and they can't walk, why are you asking them to run?
Well, exactly.
Why
So
are you
that's
expecting them to run?
yeah.
You do not put pressure on a limb or on a part of your body that is not healed and that is not well. And
Yeah.
if your mind and your brain is not healed and it's not well, you don't put pressure on it, for God's sake.
Exactly. So I really agree with the things that the two of you are saying, and I think we're all on the same page. And I think that being queer is a very unique experience in terms of psychology and in terms of unlearning specific things. Like
Yes.
you mentioned the first 27 years of your life, you mentioned the first 23, 24. I look back now, having been out of high school for 4 years, and I think about the stuff that I went through and like the microaggressions and the violences that I went through in high school, and how grateful I was at that time for people to be fine with the fact that I was gay. Now I look back at it and I realize that I had learned this completely different psychology around my sexuality to survive, to fit in with the status quo so that people would accept me, which included things like, you know, straight girls asking me to teach them how to give blowjobs on bananas at break. And like when I did drama, people would always ask me to be like, they would write me a role and they would write me a gay role. And the one year they put me in a Justin Bieber crop top and gym shorts, and they put like makeup on me and a whole bunch of stuff. And they like forced me to be this hyperbole of gayness. Um, and at the time I was like, that's cool because I'm being accepted. But now as I've gotten into my 20s and really tried to think about my identity, I realized like we spend a lot of our older years as gay people unlearning all of the really negative stuff that we've been through and put through. And it's really empowering on some days. But on some days I'm so tired. Like I'm so tired of learning and tired of constantly interrogating myself and thinking, how is my psychology different? And like some days I just want to be free, you know? But I think that's why therapy and taking medication is so important, and having access to healthcare for queer people is very important, because a lot of queer people don't have access to the healthcare they need, whether they be trans people or people who need to be on antiretrovirals or get on PrEP, etc., etc. But that's a whole nother discussion. Mental health care for queer people really needs to be made available in that specific sort of realm, because I think the way we've experienced trauma is very unique.
Fully. But I think, it's really important, to note that by having these sorts of discussions, we do put it out into the world, and someone might run with that idea and, be able to, fill the gap and, provide the thing that we need, and there are resources out there. It's just that some aren't accessible, like you were saying, but, being able to, kind of find a sort of alternative to, I don't know, like a therapy, so whatever that ends up being, for some people that ends up being Googling and like a Reddit community and being able to kind of put something up and have other people kind of unpack that and, discuss that with you. But, on that, it's very important, to have open conversations and not just let, issues and that kind of thing just sit, So yeah, I think, this is a really important discussion to have, and, definitely beyond this, it'll be interesting to hear our members speak about that, their struggles with mental health and, any ways that, we as Rainbow can help you with that, So yeah, and there are resources.
Speaking of members, you said you had questions for us to answer.
I do. I have some members' questions that I'd like to get into. We got 2 questions from our members, and the one question is, how do I tell my friends to stop using stereotypical gay slang around me?
You literally tell them.
You literally tell them to stop.
You literally tell them, are you a trans Black woman throwing a brick at Stonewall? No, stop.
Fully, and also it goes back to what Fabi was saying. Miss Daisy Ridley, they on some yes, queen, work up. There are certain things that belong to certain people, and it does kind of sound like, I don't know, like for me, like I use the word girl a lot, girl, and it's fine. My friends, they call me girl. Everyone calls each other girl, girl. Everyone is the girlies, right? But it's always weird. It's always weird when because I also game online, and I'm one of them. I game online, and it's weird to kind of like, go into a space where you're gaming and then you hear a straight person say girl to you. It doesn't sit right. It's like, like, it's not your...
Do you know what? In an attempt to like actually answer this person's question in the best way possible, like you need to have a very frank and a very open conversation with your friend, and you need to tell them you take them aside. You don't do it in the moment. You don't address it as kind of like stark and brazenly as we all did now. But you take them aside and you kind of say, listen, babe, I love you, but I personally, as someone from a community that I think you're taking from, I think you're doing just that. I think you're appropriating, and I don't think it's appropriate. If you don't agree with me, maybe we should have this conversation with another party member from said community or whatever. But like, or maybe we should ask another one of our friends to come into the conversation. But pull this person aside and tell them individually, tell your friends individually, to make yourself feel less vulnerable in the situation. Don't address it to all of them at once,
Yeah.
But I think it's a very important thing to do. checking your friends is one of the hardest things to do in the world. That's why I just wanted to like come back with that, because it is very, very difficult. And it's, even as gay people, it's very, very hard for us to stand up for what we believe in sometimes because of the world we live in.
Really. But thank you so much for answering that question. And I hope that that gives that member who asked that question, I hope that gives them clarity and the tools to be able to go and confront their friends.
If it doesn't, message me and then we can all talk together.
Create a group, create an Instagram
make a group, guys.
And we'll all send voice notes telling you to shut up.
But just a quick note from, I mean, I completely agree with Githan. Like, yes, speak to your friends, like, quite frankly, and quite, like, you know, calm and whatever. But I think try to do it as close to the time that the incident has happened, because people tend to say things and then they forget it, that they even said it. Like, I say like a lot, and someone has called me out and been like, yeah, but you say like a lot. And I was like, no, I don't. Yet here I am, punctuating my sentences with the word like. So, yeah, so people definitely do tend to forget sometimes what they've said. So if you can try to have that discussion as soon as the incident has happened and be like, okay, so that happened. This is what I don't like about it. And this is how it makes me feel. That's, I'm a social work student, so what we're kind of given the formula to address to do confrontation is, it's like, okay, this is what I have a problem with and this is how it makes me feel. That usually helps, and then you can, hopefully
I mean, the way that gay people speak to each other honestly sounds really bizarre when straight people try to do it. Because, I mean, even me, like, I call all of us she and her, and like, do you hear about her? You know, like, and then you say that to straight people and they're like, but that's a man, what are you talking about? Like, it's also okay, and this is why, again, families are so important. Like, speak with your, you know, your duties about, like, in the way that you do, like, limit, you know, I don't want to say limit yourself, but like, if they start appropriating your culture and these are straight friends that are saying things that you don't like, you have every right to check them on it.
That's
but I agree
also
with
very important.
you
have every right. You
Yeah.
have every right.
Yeah, you have every right as well. Even if you're the only gay person in that friendship group, you have every right to say, y'all are taking my culture. And
just because I'm your gay friend doesn't mean it's okay for you to say that around or to me, by the way.
Like, straight girls with gay friends think that they can just run around yelling faggot, and it's okay. It's like, it's still a slur. Please don't say it. I'm allowed to say it because I am one. Thank you. You know?
And I've dealt with it a lot to be able to say it. Oh my God, the politics of faggotry that we could get into right now. That is a word that I have struggled with my entire life. And now, like, people say it and I wince, and then sometimes I say it and I'm okay with it. Like, anyway.
Sometimes I say it and I wince. But anyway.
Yes, exactly.
So, thank you so much for answering that question. You guys gave a really full, very meaty response to that. So the next question and the last question is, well, not really so much of a question, but one of our members wanted to know and kind of like hear, you know, your thoughts about the use of the term gay by women and femmes, like, you know, how lesbians, you know, feel comfortable using the term, and also just the use of the word as an umbrella for the whole acronym. So just really interested to hear, you know, your thoughts about that.
I think that it's fine for, like, because for me, gay doesn't necessarily mean two men. It means people of the same gender or sex in a relationship with each other, which is why lesbians calling themselves gay women has never really raised a type of flag to me, I guess. I don't know if anyone disagrees with me, but I think using it to describe the entire binary is very erasing of all of the like millions of nuances that exist in people's sexualities. Christ. In everyone's sexualities, because if a bi man is in a relationship with another man, that man is still bi. He's not gay.
No,
so
he's
it's
not.
dangerous. Yeah, it's very dangerous to use gay to describe the entire acronym.
Yeah, I think the other thing is just like about information and access to knowledge. When people use gay to say anybody that's queer, and again, like queer can be an identity on its own, but also like it could also be kind of used as an umbrella term. But gay, like for example, my dad, when we've sat and had discussions about gay people or gayness, and particularly my being gay and gay identifying, for him, he understood people who were trans, people who were lesbian, people who were bi, as all of that for him was gay. And so it took time for me to educate him. So I don't know if this member's friends or people around them are also people who just say the gays when they mean LGBTIAQP plus people. So it could also be an element of them not having the access to the words to explain what they are talking about. And I think also finding words. Oh yes, and there's a project that was established a couple of years ago called Finding New Words, and that was a project by some people in the community who wanted to find words to explain and to name queerness in all its diverse forms in African indigenous languages, particularly in South Africa. And so because there isn't that language, like, I mean, when I came out as gay to my parents, I hadn't had the language, even though my family is first language Xhosa speaking, I didn't have the access to the Xhosa words to explain that I am gay. And so I used the English word gay. And so I had to sort of spend time explaining then to them what gay for me means and what gay, from what they understand and how that is different. So I think, education is really important, and access to knowledge and language.
Yes.
So that I don't think it should be discounted in this case. We definitely need to spend time. If we are, it's particular. I mean, yes, it is emotional labor, and people can go and Google it, but then you also risk people just doing a very terrible job of researching and finding the knowledge, or even going to access information that is negative or poses the queer community, LGBTIAQP plus people, in a very negative and unrealistic fashion.
Githan, do you have anything to share on that point?
I'm thinking about it because I think these two queens beneath me on this little grid have summed it up so well. I don't think that I do have anything else to add to it. The only thing I thought was something that Fabi touched on, this idea of like referring to when lesbian women refer to themselves as gay, it feels like a very like 90s, 80s canonized thing, which is like very generational in my mind.
Very sitcom.
It's like very generational in my mind. And that's like the only thing that like kind of sprung in my head is in terms of like something to add to the conversation, in terms of understanding how and why and the perceptions, of using the term gay. But completely, it is, I mean, using it to like describe the full, the full experience of being within the acronym, absolutely not.
Speaking of sitcoms, speaking of like sitcoms, like what like gay media are you guys enjoying in lockdown? Like what's keeping
Oh
you
my
afloat?
God, have y'all
What are
watched
you-
Never Have I Ever? Let me punt being Indian to you for like 2 seconds. Ah! Oh my God.
I love that. I've been watching a lot of cartoons in this attempt to reclaim my lost childhood. Um, like I've been watching She-Ra. It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
is so gay. There's a non-binary person. There's not person. There's a non-binary alien creature thing. There's lesbians. There's kids with 2 dads, and it's not forced. It just happens. It makes my gay heart so happy. Obviously, Drag Race. That one I bear with a bit of shame, but the season is also so good, and I can't wait to watch Jada
Delicious. What can I say? It's delicious.
It's so good. Also, Elite. It's a Spanish show, but there's like gay characters in it. It's also very camp. I love the drama and conflama of just, I don't know, like Steven Universe.
So sad that's finished. Oh my God.
All of it. I love it. Like I've been watching it again. Like everything. I don't know. Someone else, please save me.
I'm doing a lot of reading instead of I've been doing a lot of reading and kind of but I've also been writing, so that's kind of, I haven't spent a lot of time watching gay media, but I've been watching, I think he is from Brazil or Spain, a Spanish videographer and filmmaker who I've been watching, and he's I've watched 2 of his things, and he kind of treads the boundary between hardcore pornography and art, and create like with erotic art. So I've been watching like the 2 of his videos. They're about 20 to 30 minutes, but the one is like dancers who are taking off their clothes, and it's just so bodies and gay. I absolutely love it.
We'll be sharing a link to that after this conversation.
Yeah, please send us a link.
Please link below. Like,
and then there's one of like, this one is more like not safe for work, because this one is actually involves like sexual acts. That was also like, it wasn't shot in the way that like regular porn is shot, where there's no story or whatever. It's just, it was so beautiful and natural, but not romantic, not in any way. Throw that out of the window. Yeah, I'm a very like alternative kind of meteor watcher person. I don't particularly Twitter saves me from like pure embarrassment, because I can have conversations with people because I know what's happening sort of in popular culture. But yeah, very alternative kind of stuff, like arty, and I do a lot of reading, like critical reading.
That's wonderful.
Can we say OnlyFans? I'm just supporting my friend.
oh my God.
I would, but I still like, I'm navigating the space of like anonymity, and yeah.
Yeah. Listen, Beyonce spoke about OnlyFans. I'm allowed to speak about it. It's the law.
Stop it right now, because
Absolutely.
I was just about to say this. Can we talk about how this woman just says things and then canonizes them? It's like Beyonce is the thing that is that final seal of approval validation that puts it in the dictionary.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, she's been that for years.
She's been doing it. We know this, but I mean, like, what the? OnlyFans. Nothing is safe. She can literally. Oh my God.
She invents it all. She invented feminism. She invented OnlyFans.
She threw the first brick at Stonewall.
She invented the
Beyonce threw the first hot sauce.
That's something that I wanted to talk about, but we must do it another time. how like as
Yes.
gays we make the most overt jokes about being gay, but like to the
Yeah.
detriment of ourselves that it is so horrific and violent, like you can't even believe. Like the shit that I just said right now, like these
Yeah.
jokes about like, oh my god, Hillary, like when one day I'm gonna tell my kids that Hillary Duff threw the first brick at Stonewall, like things like that. And that's gay culture. That's what gay culture is. It's about like being like completely obtuse and not taking ourselves seriously in any capacity and being like
Yes.
really self-loathing, but at the same time not. Like it's
So
anyway,
it's being
the
South
shows
African.
that I've been watching a lot of recently are
I don't know. I think you know I don't know. At least this is my view of it. But a lot of self-deprecating humor that like exists in the gay community. At least, okay, maybe I'm just speaking from a perspective. But it's like if you're the meanest to yourself, no one can be meaner to you. You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
so nothing
If you
can.
can't hate yourself, how in the hell you gonna hate somebody else? Can I get an amen?
Amen. No, honestly. So like, you know, like if you're the worst yourself, then when someone comes and says something to you, you're like, I've said something mean to myself. Like it's a weird, twisted mentality to have, but it's you know, this dark, deprecating humor, it's self-deprecating humor. It's a way of uplifting the community, and it's what works, you know. And I guess maybe we almost like in that way perpetuate the whole thing of gays being mean, but it's true. It's true.
It is. It's
Maybe
really,
we are.
It's just African.
it's so interesting to me, that kind of weird dichotomy at play. That's why I brought it up. Sorry.
No, thanks for bringing it up. But yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, go for it.
No, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say that I've also been watching a lot of anime like Fabi. A lot of cartoons like Fabi, but a lot of anime specifically.
Which is not even necessarily queer, but it's very queer coded.
It's so queer. It's so queer. Oh
So
my
queer.
goodness.
I mean, excuse me.
The way that everyone. Oh my god, it's really, really queer, and like I've been watching a lot of that, and the thing that I rewatched recently, which was really good, was Gossip Girl, and I'm on season 5 now. And it's so. Do you know what? It's incredible watching something that is so unrelatable. It's a message from her mother, and she doesn't like it, so she throws her phone into the bin. Like it's just, it's unbelievable.
I thought you said unrelatable.
It's.
Don't you do that?
It's so like weirdly disenfranchised from any kind of life that I've ever experienced. And I think that's why I really love it, because it speaks to these ideas of like how as queer people, we're all about nation building. You know, we build our own realities and we manifest our own realities because we have to. They don't exist unless we make them. And I found that so interesting, how watching a show like Gossip Girl it had this element of like looking at how fabricated this world seems to me, and it's not fabricated, it's just not my world. And I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, a lot of anime, like all the anime that's on Netflix, all the anime that's not on Netflix, and then a lot of cartoons.
Love that. I mean, I've just been listening to podcasts. I mean, aside from the shows that have already been mentioned, like I've watched the gay anime like Yuri on Ice. I've watched the Drag Race, but I also listen to podcasts like Everyone's Gay. Even though they've been gone forever now, I just like re-listen to their old podcasts. And also Sibling Rivalry, like with Bob the Drag Queen anime. That is really good.
All of them.
All of them, and I sit every week
so funny.
waiting. I'm that Tiffany Pollard like gif where she's sitting in bed waiting. That is me waiting, like just for them to put out new content. But you know, speaking of new content, is there anything that you guys are working on right now that you'd like to promote? That you can share.
Where you talk about your OnlyFans.
I wish I liked myself enough to have an OnlyFans.
Sis, no. Me too! Me too! Oh my god.
The only stuff I have to plug unashamedly follow my YouTube channel. I only have 3 videos. But I'm doing a series called Queers in Quarantine, where I do queer things whilst in quarantine. It's very uncomplicated. Including I will be reviewing Lady Gaga's new album on the 29th of May and collecting my check. So everybody please subscribe. And my Instagram, which is at the Fabi Pinheiro. I post artsy photos and I post a lot of shit memes on my story, and it's a good old time. I like to make people laugh. So
Love that.
That's me.
Love that.
I'm just working on a lot of academic kind of writing, but about queerness. I am in the process of not writing one book, but like 5.
Ooh.
Yes.
It's interesting. Like, it really is interesting.
Academic.
But to be fair, the 4 of the 5 books are for children. And then the one is like a autobiography. I don't know when I'm going to be, but I'm hoping that by the end of the year, I can produce one of the 4 children's books. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm like academically tired.
Love to see it. We look forward to reading the books when they come out, Mama.
Yeah.
At the moment, the only thing that I do want to mention is that from next week Monday, I'm going to be doing a sale on Instagram.
Ooh.
So I basically produced I produced 4 collections at the beginning of lockdown when it was originally just going to be 3 weeks, because my studio is at home. So I made a bunch of ceramic jewelry, mostly earrings, but there are some necklaces and things. And
that
what I
jock
want to
strap.
do is so next week, Monday, I'm going to be doing a sale. Wait, what did you say? I missed what you
The
said.
jock strap.
And that jock
The
strap.
jock strap.
Get out of here.
That jock strap.
So next week, Monday, I'm going to be doing a sale, and 100% of the profits is going to be going to SWEAT, the Sex Workers Education and Advocacy Task Force in Cape Town. So basically just the sex workers community in South Africa obviously is really, really, really in a terrible place, not only because they can't apply for any kind of remuneration from the government because their work isn't seen as work, but predominantly because the women and men that make up this community are highly underprivileged and also marginalized on the edges of society. So they're struggling a lot at the moment, and so I've partnered up with Sweat, and I'm going to be doing this fundraiser. What I'm going to be doing though is selling the jewelry at like 60% the price that it would normally sell for. So hopefully we're going to be able to raise as much money as possible for them. So please look out for that next week on my Instagram. And yeah, let's make lots of money.
We love that. So do people just place their orders through the Instagram, like via the DMs?
Basically, there's going to be an addition of, I think, 30 pieces that are all going to go on sale. I'll make posts on Instagram. First one who posts, they're going to be like really cheap. The first person who posts will then have the piece, and I'll take it down from Instagram, and then I'll just do national delivery, hopefully, around SA. Unfortunately, I can't do international shipping yet. But yeah, I think it's such an important, for me, it stands out as a really, really important kind of charity to look at the moment, because I just saw like this poster that someone posted on Instagram, like those captions from The Voice that you see on like lampposts and things, and it said coronavirus : hookers finding it hard. The person who posted it was like, oh my God, I would never want to be in another country during coronavirus lockdown than I would in SA, #ZA humor, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, this is fucking disgusting. Not only that you're posting this, but also because you're advocating for like and it was a gay white man who posted that, and I was just, it was really, really, it was gross. So I decided that I needed to do something to just kind of diffuse that energy that was put out into the universe. So yeah, come buy some jewelry next week and help out a worthy cause.
And, you know, thank you to each one of you for, you know, the work that you do, and like putting out more queer content into the world, and, you know, making the world gay again. Not that it ever stopped being gay, but it should never stop being gay is the most important point. So all their details will be found in the description below, links to their social pages and to Fabi's YouTube. So definitely go check that out. And thank you very much for joining us today on this episode of Gay Conversations. Tune in next week where we'll be having the bisexual conversations, and follow us on all our socials to keep up with the Acronym Series from RAINBOWUCT. All the details will be down below. So thank you, each one of you, for joining us, for taking such a huge chunk out of your day to sit with us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is like the best thing that people can be doing right now. This kind of
it's been wonderful. I must say that the only person I know personally is Ati, Blaise, and then the other two people in this conversation I don't know, but I feel like now we're sisters.
Aww.
And that is on, wait, I have something right here for that. And that is on period. Chosen family, period. Besties. Thank you so much. And yeah.
Bye. Bye, everyone.